A scrawny homeless kid stood between Lily and a hulking bully twice his size, his fists trembling. "Touch her again, and you'll regret it," he rasped. The bully laughed, until the kid's first punch landed. The beating that followed was brutal. Ribs cracked. Blood pooled on the pavement. Lily screamed for help, but no one came. When her father, a hardened Hells Angels member, discovered what happened, his face went stone cold. He made one phone call. Within hours, dozens of motorcycles roared into town, their engines shaking windows for blocks. What they did next would change everything, but not in the way anyone expected. Welcome to Hells Angels family. If you're new here, hit that subscribe button right now because this story will touch your heart in ways you won't expect. To my faithful subscribers who've been here from the beginning, may God continue to bless you abundantly. Before we dive in, let's lift this moment up in prayer. Heavenly Father, I come before you asking for your divine protection over everyone watching right now. Bless their families, Lord. Heal their bodies, provide for their needs, and give them peace that surpasses all understanding. Surround them with your favor and let your presence be felt in their lives today. In Jesus' mighty name, amen. Now, what you're about to witness isn't just a story about a bully or a beating. It's about a homeless 12-year-old boy who finds the courage to defend a 7-year-old girl when no one else will, and the unlikely family of bikers who refuse to let him disappear into a system designed to erase kids like him. The first punch landed with a sickening crack. Lily's small body slammed into the brick wall behind Lincoln Middle School, her pink backpack skidding across the filthy ground, one strap snapping as if it were her arm. For a second, the world went silent. No cars, no voices, just the echo of that impact ringing in the narrow Detroit alley. Then the pain hit her, sharp and hot, spreading down her side as she gasped for air and stared up at the boy towering over her. Tyler's shadow swallowed her whole. He was 14, broad-shouldered, with dead, bored eyes that looked at Lily like she was a bug he hadn't finished stepping on. He grabbed the front of her faded unicorn hoodie and jerked her closer, his breath sour, his knuckles already scraped from too many fights no one ever punished him for. "Didn't you hear me, Lily?" he hissed. "You don't walk through my alley." I was just trying to get home," she stammered, her voice shaking. "Please, Tyler, I didn't." He slammed her back into the wall again. Her head snapped, vision blurring. "Your dad thinks he owns this neighborhood," Tyler sneered. "Let's see how tough you are without all his biker friends around." Lily's heart pounded so hard it hurt. She knew better than to say his name. Her father had warned her, never brag, never threaten, never say who I ride with. It makes you a target. But Tyler already knew. Everyone at school did. The whole East Side knew who Lily's father was. Reaper, a core member of the Hells Angels. Tyler yanked on her hoodie, lifting her toes off the ground. "Cry louder," he whispered. "Maybe he'll hear you." Her eyes filled as her throat tightened. She wanted to scream. She wanted her dad. But her voice came out small, broken. "Please just stop." From behind the overflowing dumpster near the end of the alley, 12-year-old Marcus heard everything. He had been there for almost an hour, knees hugged to his chest, hiding from the cold wind that cut between the school and the old brick apartment building. The city smelled like wet concrete and exhaust, but back here it smelled worse, like sour milk, old fries, and something rotting in a black trash bag no one bothered to tie properly. Marcus had just found half a sandwich in the garbage, still wrapped, only a little soggy from juice leaking from a nearby carton. It was the best thing he'd seen all day. He had been about to take his second bite when he heard the first thud, the whimper, the word he knew too well. "Please." His grip tightened around the sandwich. His stomach growled, but he didn't move. Fights happened. Bullies existed. He had learned, after 8 months on the streets, that getting involved was the fastest way to get hurt or worse. Invisible kids survive. Loud kids get buried. But then he heard something that froze him in place. "I'll make your dad pay for this." "You hear me, Lily?" Tyler snarled. "You or him. One of you is gonna bleed." Lily. She sounded so small. Marcus peeked around the corner of the dumpster, heart hammering. He saw her, tiny, maybe 7, with messy brown hair and a unicorn hoodie that looked like someone had actually cared when they bought it. Tyler's fist was drawn back, his eyes cold. And for a moment, Lily's terrified eyes met Marcus's. They were the same eyes his little sister had the night everything went wrong. Wide, wet, desperate. His sandwich hit the ground. Every instinct screamed at Marcus to stay hidden, to let it go, to remind himself that the world had never stepped in for him. When his mom overdosed on that stained mattress in a freezing apartment. When the cops came and took his sister but lost his paperwork. When he woke up in a shelter one morning and realized nobody was coming back for him. No one saved him. But maybe, just maybe, he could save someone. If this was happening to a kid you loved, would you want someone to walk away or step in? Subscribe before we get deeper into this, so stories like this never go unseen. Marcus's legs moved before his brain caught up. He stepped out from behind the dumpster, fists clenched, heart pounding so hard he thought Tyler might hear it. "Hey," he shouted, voice cracking. "Get away from her." Tyler turned slowly, annoyance flashing across his face. When he saw Marcus, thin, clothes too big, hoodie stained and torn, his lips curled into a cruel grin. "You again," he muttered. "You the little alley rat the janitors keep chasing off?" Marcus swallowed hard. "Leave her alone." Tyler snorted. "Or what?" Marcus didn't have an answer. His mouth went dry. But Lily's whimper pulled him closer, like a rope around his ribs dragging him forward. He planted his feet between Tyler and Lily, spreading his arms just enough to shield her. Just go," Marcus said. "Pick on someone your own size." Tyler laughed. "You think we're the same size?" He shoved Marcus in the chest. Marcus stumbled but didn't fall. He couldn't. Lily was behind him now, clutching her backpack, cheeks streaked with tears. "Please," Lily whispered. Don't do this." Marcus took a breath so deep it hurt and swung. His fist connected with Tyler's jaw. The shock of impact traveled all the way up his arm. For a fraction of a second, Marcus thought, maybe this will work. Tyler's head snapped to the side. There was a stunned silence in the alley. Then Tyler's tongue touched the corner of his lip, tasting blood. His eyes went dark. "Oh," he said quietly. "You just made this fun." The first punch to Marcus's stomach knocked the air out of his lungs. He folded over, gasping, the world tilting sideways. A second blow caught his jaw, then his ribs, then his shoulder. Each hit was a flash of white, a burst of pain that blurred the edges of reality. He tried to stay standing, tried to block, but he had never been in a real fight. Not like this. Marcus hit the ground hard. "Stop!" Lily screamed, voice cracking. "Please, Tyler, stop." Tyler didn't stop. Boots slammed into Marcus's side. Once, twice, 3 times. A sharp, electric pain shot through his ribs. Something gave with a crack that made bile rise in his throat. He tasted blood, metallic and warm, dripping down his chin. He curled in on himself, arms over his head, lungs burning. The asphalt was rough against his cheek. Trash blurred in his vision. The sky above the alley was a thin strip of gray. Somewhere, distantly, he heard Lily's sobs. "Why are you doing this?" she cried. "Because people like him." Tyler grunted, punctuating each word with a kick. "Don't belong at our school." Marcus wanted to shout that he didn't go to their school, that he wasn't people like him, that he used to do homework at a real kitchen table, with his mom humming in the background and his little sister coloring beside him. But his voice wouldn't come. His body felt like it was shutting down one piece at a time. If you were here watching this happen in real life, would you stay silent? Comment where you're watching from, because too many kids like Marcus suffer unnoticed. Lily darted forward, tiny hands pushing at Tyler's arm. "You're hurting him. You're going to kill him." Tyler shrugged her off, but her words hung in the air. "Kill him." Marcus's vision tunneled. Every breath felt like a knife. The world narrowed to pain, the cold bite of concrete, the copper taste on his tongue. Then, suddenly, the kicking stopped. Breathing heavily, Tyler stepped back, flexing his bruised knuckles. Marcus lay twisted on the ground, one arm curled protectively over his ribs, the other limp at his side. Lily dropped to her knees next to him, shaking. "Marcus," she whispered, voice barely audible. "Marcus, can you hear me?" His eyelids fluttered. He tried to focus on her face, but everything swam. "Hey," he slurred. "You okay?" She nodded, tears spilling over. You saved me. Why did you do that? His lips twitched into something that might have been a smile. Because no one did for us. The word us slipped out before he could stop it. Lily blinked. Us. But before Marcus could explain, a shadow fell over them. Tyler stood over them again, chest rising and falling, eyes scanning the mouth of the alley. You better not say a word, he muttered. About any of this. To anyone. He jabbed a finger at Lily. You tell your dad, I swear. He stopped suddenly, because Lily's trembling hand had reached into her backpack and pulled out something small, white, and worn around the edges. A card. She clutched it so tightly her knuckles turned white. Tyler leaned closer, squinting. What's that? Lily's voice shook. My dad's emergency card. Tyler snatched it from her fingers. The moment his eyes landed on the name printed in bold letters, his smirk vanished. Reaper. For the first time that afternoon, Tyler looked genuinely scared. He glanced from the card to Lily, then down at Marcus's broken body. A curse slipped under his breath. Without another word, he shoved the card back into Lily's hand and backed away. This never happened, he muttered. Got it. Then he turned and bolted out of the alley, leaving Lily and Marcus alone with the wind, the trash, and the faint sound of traffic somewhere beyond the brick walls. Lily's hands shook as she pressed them against Marcus's side, trying to stop the blood seeping through his torn shirt. His breathing was shallow, ragged. Don't close your eyes, she begged. Please, Marcus, stay with me. I'm going to get help. She fumbled for her phone, fingers numb, heart racing. She knew the number by heart. She wasn't supposed to use it unless it was life or death. Her father's words echoed in her head. Only call this number if you're in real danger, Lily. The kind that changes everything. Her thumb hovered over the call button. She looked at Marcus, bruised, bleeding, barely conscious. This wasn't just danger. This was worse than any nightmare she'd ever had. She hit call. The line rang once, twice. A click. Then a low, unfamiliar voice answered. Not her father's. Yeah, the man said. You got Reaper's emergency line. Who's this? Lily's throat closed. I'm Lily, she stammered. His daughter. I need my dad. Please. There was a pause on the other end, followed by a slow exhale. Lily, the man repeated, his tone shifting. Where are you? In the alley behind school, she choked out. A boy, he got hurt because of me. He's bleeding. He can't breathe right. Another pause. The man's voice dropped lower. Listen carefully. Your dad isn't picking up right now, but I work with him. Stay exactly where you are. Don't move. Don't talk to anyone. You understand. Tears blurred her vision. Is he coming? The man hesitated just long enough to make her stomach twist. Someone's coming, he said. And when they get there, everything is going to change. The call ended. Lily stared at the phone, heart racing. She looked down at Marcus, whose eyes were half closed, his lashes clumped with sweat and dust. Help is coming, she whispered, brushing hair from his forehead. I promise. A low, growing rumble that didn't sound like ambulances or police cars. It sounded like engines. Lots of them. But Lily didn't know yet that the person she called wasn't the person who was supposed to answer. And the men riding toward her weren't just coming to help. They were coming with a history that tied them to Marcus in a way no one had told her yet. Engines shattered the quiet long before the bikes came into view. Lily sat on the curb outside the emergency entrance of Detroit Mercy General, knees pulled to her chest. Reaper's white emergency card clenched so tightly in her fist the edges cut into her skin. The automatic doors hissed open and closed behind her as nurses rushed in and out, but nobody stopped to talk to the little girl with the tear-streaked face and dried blood on her hands. Most of the blood wasn't hers. She could still feel the weight of Marcus's body when the paramedics lifted him from the alley. Limp, too light, his hoodie soaked dark around his ribs. They had asked her questions. What happened? Who did this? Was he a student here? Did she know his last name? All she'd been able to say was, he saved me. Now the memory echoed every time the doors slid open and she caught a glimpse of the hallway that swallowed him. The rumble started as a vibration in the pavement under her sneakers. At first she thought it was just another truck passing on the main road. But it grew, layer upon layer. until it sounded like a storm rolling over the city, metal and thunder, and something low and angry that made her chest buzz. A security guard standing by the entrance straightened, hand narrowing over his radio. What the? Lily wiped her nose and looked up. They appeared all at once. A line of motorcycles turned the corner, headlights cutting through the afternoon haze. Chrome flashed. Leather vests, patches, skulls and wings and flames. The Hells Angels didn't arrive quietly. They arrived like a warning. People on the sidewalk stopped walking. A woman pushing a stroller froze. A man in a suit stepped back and pulled out his phone. The first bike pulled up to the curb, its engine snarling. The rider killed the throttle and swung a boot to the ground. He was tall, broad, tattoos crawling up his neck and under his beard. His vest bore the familiar Death's Head emblem. And above it, the name. Reaper. Lily's lungs forgot how to work for a second. She scrambled up, legs wobbling. Dad. Reaper's head snapped toward her voice. For a fraction of a moment, the hardened lines of his face cracked, and something raw flickered there. He cut the engine and was off the bike in an instant. He didn't hug her right away. His eyes swept over her. Cheeks, arms, hoodie, the dried smear of red on her sleeve. His jaw clenched, the muscle twitching. Are you hurt? He demanded, voice low, steady, terrifying in its restraint. Lily shook her head so fast her vision blurred. No, I'm okay. I'm okay. He took one step closer and cupped her face with his calloused hands, thumb brushing the corner of a bruise forming along her jaw. His touch was gentle, at odds with the fury in his eyes. He bent down to her height. Tell me what happened, he said. The other bikes rolled in behind him, engines idling. Men dismounted one by one, boots heavy on concrete, vests creaking. A few of them watched the doors, scanning the parking lot like they expected trouble. The hospital security guard spoke frantically into his radio, eyes wide. Lily tried to breathe, but the words tangled in her throat. Dad, her voice cracked. He was going to hurt me. He already did. Tyler. He pushed me. He hit me. I couldn't get away. Reaper's hands slid from her cheeks to her shoulders, steadying her as she trembled. Tyler who? He asked. Tyler Grimshaw, she whispered. From school. A murmur went through the line of bikers. Someone cursed under their breath. Reaper's eyes went colder. And the blood, Lily? On your sleeves. On your hands. That his. She swallowed. No. It's Marcus's. Reaper's brow furrowed. Who's Marcus? The boy who stepped in, she said, voice breaking. He was hiding, and he saw what was happening. He told Tyler to stop. And then Tyler beat him up instead. So bad, Dad. He couldn't breathe. Reaper went very still. He took the hits for you, he said quietly. She nodded, tears spilling again. He doesn't even go to our school. He doesn't have anywhere to live. He just saw me, and her chest hitched. He wouldn't walk away. Reaper straightened slowly, his hands dropping to his sides. Something had changed in his face. The anger was still there, but it had condensed into something sharper, more controlled. Behind him, the other Hells Angels watched, waiting. He turned toward the hospital entrance. One of the bikers stepped closer. Reap, you want us to. Hold the line, Reaper said, not taking his eyes off the sliding doors. Nobody lays a hand on anyone. Not here. Not yet. The security guard moved into his path, palm up. Sir, you and your group can't block the entrance. You're scaring patients. Reaper stopped inches away, police-style sunglasses reflecting the guard's nervous face. When he spoke, his tone was calm. My daughter is bleeding in front of a hospital, he said. And the boy who kept her from being carried in on a stretcher is somewhere inside, fighting to breathe. You got a problem with that. You take it up with administration. He took one deliberate step forward. The guard instinctively stepped back. If you care more about how we look than why we're here, Reaper added softly, that says more about you than it does about us. The guard hesitated, hand hovering near his radio. Then he glanced at the line of bikers, silent, steady, unmoving, and shifted to the side. Reaper walked in. Lily grabbed the back of his vest, fingers tangling in worn leather. The hospital air smelled like antiseptic and metal, humming with the steady beep of distant machines. Nurses behind the front desk froze as the biker with the skull on his back approached. The clerk at the desk cleared her throat, forcing professionalism. "Sir, can I help you?" "Yes," Reaper said. "My daughter was brought in with a boy. His name is Marcus. He's about 12. Thin, brown hoodie, bruised, bleeding. He stopped her from getting killed in an alley behind Lincoln Middle." The nurse's eyes softened for a moment, then moved nervously to the patches on his vest. "Are you family?" Reaper held her gaze. "I am now." She hesitated. We have to follow protocol. Only immediate relatives can." "Check your intake," he said. "You got a last name for him? An address? Anyone listed to call?" The nurse turned to her computer, fingers typing. Lily hugged Reaper's arm tightly, listening to the clacking keys. After a moment, the nurse frowned. He came in as unknown minor. No ID. No guardian on file. No emergency contact. Reaper's jaw flexed. "So if he dies on that table," he asked quietly, "who signs the paper?" The nurse swallowed. "The city. Eventually." Reaper leaned in, lowering his voice. "Put my name on it." Lily's head snapped up. "Dad, you mark him down as under my care," Reaper continued, eyes never leaving the nurse. "You need papers, I'll sign them. You need a responsible adult, you're looking at him. Until someone can prove otherwise, he's not going to be just another body the system forgets." The nurse stared, caught between rules and the man in front of her who looked like he'd walked out of a headline and into her lobby. "Sir, you can't just—" "I can pay," Reaper said, sliding a thick, folded stack of bills from his vest and setting it on the counter. "Whatever it costs." He stepped into a fight to protect my blood. That makes him my responsibility. The weight of the money made a soft thud. For a brief second, the entire waiting room went quiet. Right now, somewhere out there, another kid like Marcus has nobody willing to step up. Like and subscribe so these stories aren't buried and forgotten like they never happened. The nurse's eyes flicked to the cash, then back to Lily, who still had streaks of dried red on her wrists. Her shoulders sagged. "I'll see what I can do," she murmured. "He's in trauma 3. They're still working on him." Reaper nodded once. "Take me to him." "Just one person in the room," she warned. "Children aren't allowed." Reaper looked down at Lily. She stared back, stubborn as ever, lip trembling but chin up. "I'm not leaving," Lily said, voice small but firm. "He saved me. I have to be here." The nurse hesitated. "If anything happens—" Reaper's hand settled on Lily's shoulder. "She stays behind me. You have my word." After a long beat, the nurse nodded and led them down the hall. The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead. They passed rooms full of pale faces, machines blinking, families hunched in plastic chairs. Lily's sneakers squeaked on the tile. She kept replaying the image of Marcus on the asphalt, his arm crooked at a strange angle, his lips trying to curve into a brave half-smile, even as his chest rattled. What if that was the last time she'd see his eyes open? They stopped outside a door marked Trauma 3. Through the narrow gap in the curtain, Lily glimpsed movement, blue scrubs, gloved hands, machines beeping in rapid patterns. A doctor stepped out, pulling down a mask. His expression shifted when he saw Reaper's vest. "You the father?" he asked. Reaper didn't blink. "Yeah," he said. "You could say that." The doctor glanced at Lily, then lowered his voice. "Your boy's in rough shape. Multiple broken ribs, possible punctured lung, concussion. He lost a lot of blood. If he'd gotten here 30 minutes later, we might not be having this conversation." Lily's stomach dropped. The hallway swayed for a second. Is he going to die?" she whispered. The doctor's hard face softened. "We stabilized him," he said. "But the next 24 hours are critical. We'll know more when he wakes up. If he wakes up." If. The word landed like a punch. Reaper's jaw tightened. "Can we see him?" Briefly, the doctor said. "No touching the equipment. No getting in the nurse's way. He needs rest." He pushed the curtain aside. The smell hit Lily first. Antiseptic, metal, something faintly burnt. Then she saw Marcus. He looked even smaller on the hospital bed. His hoodie was gone, replaced by a gown that hung off his bony shoulders. White bandages wrapped his chest, a dark stain spreading slowly on one side. A tube ran from his nose, and 4 dripped into his arm. His face was swollen along one cheekbone, a bruise already blooming under one eye. But it was the sound that broke her, the slow, labored whistle of each breath. Lily edged closer, fingers twisting the hem of her hoodie. "Hey," she whispered. "It's me, Lily." His eyelids fluttered. For a second, she thought he hadn't heard. Then, slowly, his eyes cracked open. They were dull with pain, unfocused, but they found her. "Hey," he rasped, voice thin. "You okay?" She nodded, tears spilling again. "You shouldn't ask me that. I'm fine. You're the one who," her voice cracked. "You shouldn't have done it." His lips twitched. "Bad at watching people get hurt," he muttered. "Trust me, tried it before." Reaper stepped to the other side of the bed, arms crossed, gaze scanning the monitors before settling on Marcus's face. "So," he said quietly, "you're the kid who decided to stand between my daughter and a beating." Marcus blinked slowly. Somebody had to. Reaper studied him for a long moment. "What's your last name?" he asked. Silence. Marcus swallowed. "Don't got one," he whispered. "Not one that matters." Reaper frowned. "You got a family? Anyone we should call?" Marcus's gaze drifted to the ceiling. "Not anymore." The words were flat, practiced, like he'd said them so many times they weren't even real feelings anymore. Just lines in a script no one cared to listen to. That kind of loneliness shouldn't feel normal to a 12-year-old. If you've ever felt abandoned or overlooked like Marcus, you know this pain too well. Hit like and subscribe so these real, messy stories have a voice that doesn't get silenced. Reaper's eyes moved to the chart hanging at the foot of the bed. He picked it up, ignoring the nurse's protest. "Sir, that's medical." He read quickly, eyes narrowing. "No last name. No address. Intake notes. Found in alley, unaccompanied. Possible runaway. No ID." Halfway down the page, his stare sharpened. "Where'd you say you'd been staying?" Reaper asked, voice carefully neutral. Marcus winced as he tried to shift. "Here, there," he said. "Shelters, mostly. Sometimes the old apartments on Jefferson. Before that, an address doesn't matter if nobody's home." Reaper's fingers tightened around the chart. His gaze lingered on a single line near the bottom, a notation from a social worker who had been called but hadn't yet arrived. Reported previous residence, 814 Ashcroft. Mother deceased. Death ruled narcotics related. No father listed. Lily watched her dad's face drain of color. 814 Ashcroft, he repeated quietly. Marcus's brow furrowed. "Yeah," he said. Before she." He didn't finish. Reaper set the chart back, very slowly. Lily looked between them, confused. "Dad?" she whispered. "What's wrong?" For a moment, Reaper didn't answer. He just stared at Marcus like he was seeing a ghost in a hospital gown. "Your mom," Reaper said at last, voice low. "What was her name?" Marcus hesitated. "Tasha," he whispered. "Tasha Green." The name hit Reaper like a physical blow. Lily saw it. The way his shoulders stiffened. The way his eyes darkened not with rage, but with something heavier. Guilt. Memory. Recognition. He took a step back from the bed, fingers flexing like he didn't know what to do with his hands. "Dad," Lily said again, panic edging into her voice. Do you know him?" Reaper swallowed. His gaze locked on the boy who'd bled in an alley for his daughter. "Yeah," he said, the word coming out rough. "I know his family." He looked at Marcus, and for the first time, there was no distance in his eyes. No barrier of leather, metal, or reputation. "Kid," Reaper said quietly, "you're not just some stranger who stepped into our lane." He exhaled slowly, the weight of a memory pressing down on every word. "You're connected to something I should have fixed a long time ago." Lily's heart pounded as the room seemed to shrink around them. Because whatever Reaper had just recognized in Marcus's file, it wasn't just about a random homeless boy anymore. It was about a past he'd buried, and a debt that might be far bigger than she or Marcus could even imagine. The house on Maple Ridge Drive looked like it belonged in a holiday catalog. White columns, brick facade, manicured lawn edged with decorative stones. The kind of place where people smiled in their Christmas cards and pretended nothing ugly ever happened behind closed doors. Reaper killed the engine of his motorcycle in the driveway and looked up at the second-story window, where a shadow moved quickly behind lace curtains. They knew he was coming. Behind him, 6 other bikes rolled to a stop along the curb. No revving. No theatrics. Just the quiet click of kickstands and the creak of leather as the Hells Angels dismounted and waited, arms crossed, eyes scanning the neighborhood like sentries. Lily had stayed at the hospital with one of the club's old ladies, a woman named Gina who'd raised 3 sons and didn't scare easy. Reaper had made her promise not to leave Marcus's side until he returned. Because whatever he was about to do, his daughter didn't need to see it. Not yet. A man in a navy blazer stepped onto the porch, cell phone pressed to his ear. He was mid-40s, graying at the temples, with the kind of smile that had won him elections. Councilman Derek Grimshaw, the man who'd spent a decade shaping Detroit's East Side zoning laws while his son spent that same decade breaking bones without consequences. Derek ended the call and pocketed the phone, his expression shifting into something carefully neutral. "Reaper," he said, voice smooth. "I heard you might be stopping by." Reaper walked up the stone path slowly, boots heavy on the pavers. He stopped at the base of the porch steps and looked up at the councilman. "Your boy put my daughter against a brick wall," Reaper said. No preamble, no politeness. Derek's jaw tightened, but he kept the smile. "I think there's been a misunderstanding." He cracked 3 of another kid's ribs defending her. Reaper continued, voice flat. "That kid is 12. He weighs maybe 90 pounds. Your son is 14 and built like a linebacker." Derek shifted his weight. "Tyler said it was self-defense." "Self-defense," Reaper repeated slowly, like he was tasting the words. "Against a 7-year-old girl and a homeless kid half his size." Behind him, one of the bikers, a man called Axe, with a scar running from his eyebrow to his jaw, let out a low, humorless laugh. Derek glanced past Reaper to the line of leather vests and crossed arms. His smile faltered. "Look," Derek said, lowering his voice. "I don't want trouble. If there was an incident, we can handle it privately. Maybe some sort of compensation for medical bills." "I already paid his bills," Reaper said. "That's not why I'm here." Derek blinked. "Then what do you want?" Reaper took 1 step up onto the porch. Derek instinctively stepped back. "I want your son," Reaper said quietly, "to understand what accountability looks like." The front door opened before Derek could respond. A woman stepped out, tall, blonde, expensive yoga clothes, diamond studs glinting in her ears. Monica Grimshaw. She looked at Reaper like he was a stain on her imported tile. "This is private property," she said sharply. "You can't just show up here and—" "Your son hurt 2 kids today," Reaper interrupted. "One of them is my daughter. The other one almost died on a hospital table because he stepped in to stop it." Monica's face tightened. "Tyler wouldn't." "He did," Reaper said. "And you know he did. Because this isn't the first time, is it?" Silence. Derek's hand moved to his wife's shoulder. "Monica." She shook him off. "We've handled Tyler's issues. He's seeing a counselor." He's a predator," Reaper said, voice cold. "And you've been covering for him since he was old enough to throw a punch." Monica's eyes flashed. "How dare you?" "I dare," Reaper said. "Because I've been in this neighborhood long enough to hear the whispers. The parents who pulled their kids out of his class. The lawsuits you settled under the table. The broken noses, black eyes, and restraining orders that mysteriously disappeared." Derek's face went pale. Reaper pulled a folded piece of paper from his vest and held it up. "I made some calls this morning," he said. "Turns out, your son has hurt at least 6 kids in the last 2 years. You paid off 4 families. Threatened 2 others with legal action if they talked." Monica's lips parted, but no sound came out. "So yeah," Reaper continued, voice dropping. "I dare." Derek stepped forward, hands raised. "Look, we can work this out. Name your price." "I don't want your money," Reaper said. "I want your son downstairs. Now." Monica crossed her arms. "Absolutely not." Reaper's gaze shifted to her, unblinking. "Then I walk out of here, go straight to the police station, and hand them every name on this list. Every family you silenced. Every kid your boy hurt. And I make sure the press knows exactly how a city councilman used his position to bury his son's violence." Derek's face drained of color. "You're threatening me." "No," Reaper said. "I'm giving you a choice. Bring him down, or I bring everything else down on top of you." When powerful people would rather pay than face the truth, kids like Marcus pay the price instead. Like and subscribe if you believe accountability matters more than a family's reputation. Monica's hands shook. She glanced at her husband, then at the bikers lining the curb, then back at Reaper. Fine, she whispered. But if you lay a hand on him. I won't, Reaper said. I'm not here to hurt him. I'm here to make sure he understands what he did. Monica disappeared inside. The sound of muffled voices drifted through the open door, sharp, defensive, escalating. Then footsteps. Tyler appeared in the doorway. He was bigger than Reaper expected. Broad shoulders, thick arms, a face that still carried the soft edges of adolescence, but the eyes of someone who'd learned early that rules didn't apply to him. He looked at Reaper with a mixture of defiance and fear. You wanted to see me? Tyler said, voice tight. Reaper studied him for a long moment. Yeah, he said. I did. He gestured to the driveway. Walk with me. Tyler hesitated, glancing at his parents. Derek gave a tight nod. Monica looked like she wanted to vomit. Tyler followed Reaper down the steps and onto the lawn, stopping a few feet from the motorcycles. The bikers didn't move, but their presence was a wall, silent, immovable. Reaper turned to face him. You know who I am? He asked. Tyler nodded slowly. Lily's dad. Right, Reaper said. And you know what you did to her. Tyler's jaw clenched. It wasn't. I didn't mean to. Stop, Reaper said. Don't lie to me. You cornered her. You hurt her. And when a kid half your size told you to stop, you beat him so bad he couldn't breathe. Tyler's gaze dropped to the ground. Look at me, Reaper said. Tyler's eyes snapped up. That kid you put in the hospital? Reaper continued. His name is Marcus. He's 12. He's been homeless for 8 months. He's got no family, no home, no one looking out for him. And he still chose to step between you and my daughter. Tyler swallowed hard. You think that makes you tough? Reaper asked. Beating a kid who had nothing to lose and still chose to protect someone else. Tyler's voice came out small. I didn't know. You didn't care, Reaper corrected. There's a difference. He took a step closer. Tyler flinched, but didn't move. You want to know why I'm really here? Reaper asked. It's not just about Lily. It's about every kid you've hurt. Every kid your parents paid off. Every family too scared to speak up because your dad has power and money. Tyler's face flushed. That's not. It is, Reaper said. And it stops. Today. Derek's voice called from the porch. That's enough. Reaper held up a hand without turning. You had your chance to raise him right. Now he hears it from me. He looked back at Tyler. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to apologize to Marcus. In person. When he's strong enough to hear it. Tyler's mouth opened. I'm not done, Reaper said. You're also going to write down the name of every kid you've hurt. Every single one. And you're going to help me reach out to their families so they know they can talk now. No lawyers. No threats. Just the truth. Tyler's eyes widened. My dad will never. Your dad doesn't get a vote, Reaper said. You do. You can own what you did, or I take this list to the police and let them sort it out. Your choice. Silence hung heavy in the air. Tyler's hands trembled. Why do you even care? He asked, voice cracking. About some homeless kid. You don't even know him. Reaper's expression didn't change. I know him better than you think. Tyler frowned. What's that supposed to mean? Reaper didn't answer. Instead, he pulled out his phone and opened a photo, one taken at the hospital an hour ago. Marcus, bruised and bandaged, eyes barely open, but still managing a faint smile when Lily whispered something to him. He held the phone up so Tyler could see. That's who you almost killed, Reaper said. Take a good look. Tyler stared at the image. His throat worked as he swallowed. You don't get to walk away from this, Reaper continued. Not without facing it. Not without knowing his name. Not without understanding that he's worth more than you ever gave him credit for. He lowered the phone. And here's the part that's going to keep you up at night, Reaper added, voice dropping. Marcus wasn't just some random kid hiding behind a dumpster. Tyler's brow furrowed. What are you talking about? Reaper's jaw tightened. 8 months ago, a woman named Tasha Green overdosed in an apartment on Ashcroft. The cops came. Social services took her kids. One of them slipped through the cracks. Tyler's confusion deepened. I don't. That kid was Marcus, Reaper said. And Tasha Green? She was someone I knew. Someone I should have helped before things got that bad. Tyler's face went pale. You didn't just beat up a homeless kid, Reaper continued. You beat up a kid I failed. A kid who's been surviving on his own because the system, and people like me, let him fall. The weight of those words settled over the driveway like a storm cloud. Derek stepped off the porch, voice strained. Reaper, you can't seriously. Reaper turned, eyes blazing. I can, and I will, because if I don't, who does? Monica appeared beside her husband, face crumpling. Tyler didn't know, she said, voice breaking. He didn't know any of that. He should have, Reaper said, because it shouldn't matter who Marcus was or who he's connected to. He's a human being. That should have been enough. He looked back at Tyler. So yeah, you're going to apologize. You're going to own it. And you're going to help me make sure no other kid in this city gets buried the way Marcus almost did. Tyler's voice was barely a whisper. And if I don't? Reaper's expression hardened. Then I make sure everyone knows what you did. And what your parents did to cover it up. You'll carry that for the rest of your life. How many kids suffer in silence because no one with power is willing to speak up? Like and subscribe, because stories like this don't end unless we refuse to look away. Tyler looked at his parents. His mother's face was streaked with tears. His father's hands were clenched at his sides. Finally, Tyler nodded. Okay, he said, voice shaking. I'll do it. Reaper studied him for a long moment, then nodded once. Good. He turned to leave, then paused. One more thing, he said. Tyler looked up. The man who answered Lily's call? Reaper said. The one who picked up my emergency line when I didn't. Tyler frowned. What about him? Reaper's expression darkened. He wasn't supposed to have that number. And the only reason he did is because someone gave it to him. Someone who wanted Marcus found. Tyler's confusion deepened. I don't understand. You weren't just bullying Marcus for fun, Reaper said. Someone put you up to it. Someone who knew Marcus was hiding. Someone who wanted him flushed out. The air seemed to freeze. Monica gasped. That's insane. Is it? Reaper asked, eyes locked on Tyler. Because here's what I can't figure out. How did you know to corner Lily in that specific alley? On that specific day? When Marcus just happened to be there? Tyler's face went white. I didn't. I saw her walking. Try again, Reaper said. Tyler's mouth opened and closed. Someone texted me. Derek's head snapped toward his son. What? Tyler fumbled for his phone, hands shaking. He scrolled, then held it up. A single message. No contact name. Just a number. Lily Mercer walks through the alley behind Lincoln at 3:15. Alone. Do what you do best. The world seemed to tilt. Reaper took the phone, staring at the message. His jaw flexed. Who sent this? He demanded. Tyler shook his head frantically. I don't know. I swear I don't know. I thought it was just, I don't know, someone messing around. Reaper's eyes narrowed. You got this message, and you just went along with it? Tyler's voice cracked. I thought it was a prank or something. I didn't think. You didn't think, Reaper repeated coldly. He handed the phone to Axe, who pulled out his own device and started tracing the number. Monica stepped forward, voice desperate. This doesn't make sense. Why would anyone target your daughter? Reaper's gaze shifted to her, then back to Tyler. Because, he said slowly, they weren't targeting my daughter. Everyone froze. They were targeting Marcus. The words hung in the air like a blade. And the only way they could find him, Reaper continued, was by using someone he'd step in to protect. Lily. The realization hit like a freight train. Reaper turned and walked toward his bike, phone already at his ear. Gina, he said, voice tight. Lock the hospital room. Don't let anyone in. I don't care if they say they're doctors. No one gets near Marcus until I get back. He hung up and swung onto his bike. Tyler's voice cracked behind him. Wait, who's after him? Reaper looked back one last time, face carved from stone. The same people who killed his mother. He kicked the engine to life. And as the Hells Angels roared out of Maple Ridge Drive, one terrifying truth settled over the quiet suburban street. Marcus wasn't just a victim of a bully. He was bait. And whoever set the trap was still out there. Marcus woke up choking on plastic and chemicals. The ceiling above him was a blur of white panels and humming lights. For a moment, he thought he was back in one of the shelters, bright, Too cold. The kind of place where you couldn't tell if it was day or night. Then the pain hit. His chest burned like someone had driven nails between his ribs. Every breath felt wrong, shallow and sharp. He tried to sit up, and a lightning bolt of agony shot through his side. "Easy, kid." The voice came from the chair near the window. Marcus turned his head slowly. A woman sat there, arms folded, long dark hair pulled into a messy bun. She wore a leather vest over a faded band t-shirt, tattoos curling down her forearms. Her eyes were softer than the rest of her, brown, tired, observant. "Hospital," she said. "You're at Detroit Mercy. You took one hell of a beating." He wet his cracked lips, tasting metal. "Lily." The woman straightened a little. "She's fine," she said. "Shaken, bruised, but fine. She's with one of the guys downstairs grabbing hot chocolate." "Your first words aren't about yourself, huh?" Marcus let his head sink back into the pillow, relief loosening something tight in his chest. "Good," he rasped. The woman stood and stepped closer. "Name's Gina," she said. "Reaper asked me to keep an eye on you while he handles things." Marcus frowned. "Handles what?" Gina hesitated. Something flickered in her expression. Conflict, maybe, or worry she didn't want him to see. "People who hurt kids," she said finally. "And people who think they can make kids disappear without anyone noticing." His pulse spiked. "Disappear?" Gina glanced at the door, then back at him. "You remember anything from the alley after you went down?" He squeezed his eyes shut, trying to pull the memories into focus. Tyler's boot in his ribs. Lily screaming. The taste of blood. The sky narrowing. Then the siren. Hands lifting him, voices shouting over each other. "Ambulance," he whispered. Then nothing. Gina nodded. "Paramedics said there was a man in the crowd when they loaded you in. Stood there just long enough to watch. Then vanished before anyone could ask questions." Marcus's stomach knotted. "What kind of man?" "The kind who doesn't belong outside a middle school," Gina said. "Wrong shoes, wrong watch, wrong eyes. Not a parent, not a teacher." She slipped something from her pocket and laid it gently on his blanket. A cheap plastic hospital bracelet. His own, except the name line had been scratched. Originally, the pen indentation suggested someone had written a last name, and then someone else had dragged a thumb over it before the ink dried, smearing it to nothing. Marcus stared at it. I don't have a last name. Not really. I told them that." "Yeah," Gina said. "But somebody tried to give you one before the paperwork went through, then made sure it wasn't readable." His throat tightened. "Why would someone?" "Because if they can prove who you are," Gina said softly, "they can make sure you never leave alive." The monitor beside the bed beeped faster. If someone was willing to erase a kid's identity just to make them easier to bury, what else are they willing to do? Like and subscribe if you believe kids like Marcus deserve to be seen, not erased. Marcus's hand shook as he pushed the bracelet away. "Who's they?" he whispered. Gina's jaw tightened. "Reaper thinks it's connected to what you saw before your mom died." The air in the room seemed to thin. He hadn't told Lily that part. He hadn't told anyone that part in a long time. 8 months earlier. The smell of burnt plastic and cheap incense. His mom's voice cracking on the phone, saying everything was going to be okay when it obviously wasn't. The door kicking open. Men with badges, but not wearing uniforms, shouting. A packet on the table. A shout. A gun. He stared at Gina. "The cops," he said, barely audible. "Some of them," she said carefully. "Not all. But the kind that take evidence home instead of to the station. The kind that clock out before they do their worst work." He felt suddenly cold, like the hospital gown was made of paper and air. "Why now?" he asked. "Why come after me now?" "You didn't disappear like they expected," Gina said. "You started surviving. Street sees more than people think. Word got around about the kid who saw too much on Ashcroft and didn't end up in foster care or a grave. Wrong ears heard it." Marcus swallowed hard. The room felt too small, the beeping too loud. "So they used Lily," he said slowly. "To find me." Gina nodded once. "Reaper's piecing that together right now. The message to the bully. The emergency line getting answered by the wrong person. Someone's pulling strings." Marcus bit the inside of his cheek until he tasted blood. "I should have stayed hidden," he muttered. "If I hadn't stepped in, they wouldn't know." Gina slammed her hand lightly against the side rail, startling him. "Don't do that," she said sharply. "Don't you dare make this your fault." He flinched, eyes wide. "You did what decent adults should have done," she continued, voice firm but quieter. "You stepped in when a kid was in danger. That doesn't make you bait. That makes you brave." Nobody had ever said that word to him about anything he'd done. Brave. He looked away, blinking hard. "Brave gets you dead," he muttered. "Sometimes," Gina said. "But sometimes it gets the right people angry enough to change things." Footsteps echoed in the hallway. Several. Heavy, not the soft squeak of nurses' shoes. Gina's head snapped up. She moved to the door and cracked it open an inch. Her body tensed. Marcus tried to push himself up again, ignoring the flare of pain. "What is it?" Gina shut the door quietly and turned the lock. "Stay in the bed," she said. "And no matter what happens, don't pull anything out of your arms. You rip that you'll drop faster than you think." His heart hammered. "Who's out there?" "Not Reaper," she said. He'd knock louder. She crossed the room in 3 strides, grabbed the rolling tray table, and moved it in front of the door like a flimsy barricade. Then she pulled something from the inside of her vest and slipped it into the waistband of her jeans. A gun. Marcus's breath hitched. "Don't look at that," Gina said. "Look at me." He tore his eyes away from the weapon and met hers. "You're not alone in this," she said, each word deliberate. "Whatever's coming through that door isn't going to take you quietly. Not while I'm breathing." The handle turned. If someone can walk into a hospital and finish what the street started, how safe is anyone really? Like and subscribe so stories about kids like Marcus don't get buried under silence and fear. The knob rattled. A man's voice floated through the door, light, professional. "Miss Green? This is social services. We're here to complete intake on the minor." Gina didn't answer. Marcus's skin went cold. "Green," he whispered. "How did they?" "They always know just enough to sound legitimate," Gina murmured. "That's how they get past the front desk." A second, deeper voice joined the first. "We've got authorization from Detective Halpern to move him to county facility." "Open up, ma'am. No need to make this difficult." Detective Halpern. Marcus tasted bile. He knew that name. He'd heard it shouted in the Ashcroft apartment while his mother begged someone not to take her kids. He'd heard it whispered in the shelter months later, accompanied by stories about people who went into custody and never came back out. Gina moved to the head of the bed and pressed something into Marcus's hand. A small, rectangular object. His old phone. He stared at it in disbelief. "I don't have service," he said. "You do now," she replied. "Reaper got it turned back on this morning. One number is pinned at the top. If things go sideways, and I'm not between you and whoever comes through that door, you hit that number and don't hang up." His hand trembled around the phone. "What if they take it?" "Hide it," she said. "Under your leg, in the pillowcase, anywhere. Just keep it close. Reaper's not the kind of man you call twice." The pounding on the door grew more insistent. "Ms. Green, we can get a staff member to open this if you want. You're obstructing an active investigation." Gina rolled her eyes. "They love that word," she muttered. Marcus swallowed. "You can't shoot cops in a hospital," he whispered. "They'll lock you up forever." "Relax," she said, though her jaw was clenched. "I didn't say I was going to shoot anyone. But there's a difference between a badge and a death sentence, and somebody needs to remind them." She walked back to the door and called out, voice muffled but clear. "Kid's asleep," she said. "Doctor said no visitors until he's stabilized." "You got a problem with that. You talk to the attending physician." A beat of silence. Then the second voice, harder now. "You don't want to cooperate? That's fine. We'll get security and make this official." Gina smiled without humor. "You do that," she called back. "Just make sure they bring real security. Not rented guns with fake paperwork." The hallway went quiet. Marcus's chest rose and fell too fast. His fingers dug into the blanket. He could hear his heart in his ears. "Why are you doing this?" he burst out. "You don't even know me." Gina looked at him, and for a moment, the tough exterior slipped. "Because 8 months ago, your mom asked for help and didn't get it," she said. "Because a man Reaper respects told him something about a deal gone wrong on Ashcroft and a kid who saw everything. Because we've spent years pretending the system would sort it out and watching it eat kids alive instead. She took a breath. And because Lily came home with your blood on her sleeves, she added. That makes you ours, whether you like it or not. The words hit something deep and unsteady inside him. Ours. Nobody had used that word about him since before the apartment, before the overdose, before the social worker who promised she'd be right back and never was. He looked away quickly, blinking burning behind his eyes. A soft knock interrupted them. Different rhythm, different weight. Gina stiffened, then relaxed a fraction. That's him. She unlocked the door, but didn't move the tray. She cracked it just enough to see, then opened it wider. Reaper stepped into the room, shoulders filling the doorway. He looked different than he had at the school meetings Marcus had glimpsed from afar. Less like a legend, and more like a man carrying something heavy. His hair was flattened from a helmet. His vest smelled like rain and gasoline, and his eyes, when they landed on Marcus, held something rawer than anger. Gina shut the door behind him. Well, she asked. Reaper's jaw worked. It's dirty, he said. Text to the bully came from a burner. Emergency line was picked up by someone who shouldn't have had it. Halpern's name is all over the paper trail from Ashcroft. Marcus's stomach clenched. He's here, he whispered. In the hallway. I heard them. Reaper nodded once. I know. Gina crossed her arms. You want me to stall them while you get him moved? Reaper shook his head slowly. We're not moving him, he said. That's exactly what they want. Marcus stared. Then what? Reaper stepped closer to the bed. First, he said quietly, you and me need to clear something up. He pulled a worn photograph from his vest and set it on the blanket. It showed a woman in her 20s, laughing at something off camera, eyes bright, hair falling over one shoulder. She held a cigarette in one hand and a baby on her hip, a baby with the same eyes Marcus saw in the mirror every morning he had access to one. His breath hitched. Mom, he whispered. Tasha, Reaper said. Marcus's head snapped up. You knew her? Reaper nodded. A long time ago, he said. Before the apartment on Ashcroft. Before you. Before any of this. His voice was rougher now, edges frayed. I was young, Reaper continued. Dumber than I like to admit. She and I ran with some of the same people. I pulled out of a deal. She didn't. When it went sideways, I told myself it wasn't my problem anymore. He looked down at the photo. I was wrong, he said simply. Marcus could feel the room shrinking around them. She never talked about you, he whispered. She wouldn't, Reaper said. I wasn't someone she should have been proud to know. But when I heard about a kid from Ashcroft who'd seen bad cops do bad things, and then I saw your chart with her name on it. He swallowed hard. I realized this wasn't just some mess the world dropped in our laps, he said. This was a mess I helped create. By walking away when I shouldn't have. Marcus's fingers curled in the blanket. So what? He asked, bitterness creeping in. Now you feel guilty, so you show up? The words were harsh, but his voice shook. Reaper didn't flinch. No, he said. I feel responsible. There's a difference. He leaned in, forearms resting lightly on the bed rail. What Halpern and his kind did to your mom, to you, to your sister, that's on them, Reaper said. But the fact that nobody with power stood between them and you, that's on all of us who look the other way. I can't fix the past, but I can make damn sure they don't finish what they started. Marcus wanted to believe him, wanted to grab onto those words like a life raft. But hope felt dangerous. Hope got you hurt. So what now, he asked. They're right outside. They can just walk in here and... No, Reaper cut in. They can't. Not the way they planned to. He reached into his vest and pulled out a small black device, setting it next to the monitor. Gina frowned. You tapped the room? Halpern's guys love shortcuts, Reaper said. They avoid paperwork like it's the plague. They don't want witnesses. They want quiet. So when they come in here, they're going to lose their body cams, cut corners, try to move him without signatures. He tapped the device. This doesn't lose anything, he said. Audio, video, the works. It's tied to a cloud account Lily's teacher helped me set up. The second they cross a line, it goes off-site. Marcus stared at the tiny blinking light. You're baiting them, he realized. Reaper's lips twitched in something that wasn't quite a smile. You said you were tired of running, he said. Time to let them run instead. Gina shook her head. You're playing this close, Reap. Too close. We don't have a choice, he said. If we move him, they call it obstruction. If we hand him over, he disappears. This is the only way to put them somewhere they can't buy their way out of. The pounding returned, harder, more official this time. Open up, a voice barked. Detective Halpern, DPD. You are interfering with a legal transfer of custody. Reaper looked at Marcus. You trust me, he asked. Marcus swallowed. I don't know you. Fair, Reaper said. Then trust Lily. She asked me to keep you safe. I gave her my word. That, somehow, cut through the noise in Marcus's head. Lily's freckled face, her shaking hands in the alley, her whisper over his hospital bed. You saved me. He nodded once. Reaper straightened. All right, he said. Let's give them what they came for. Gina moved to the side of the room, positioning herself near the window, hand at her waistband, but gun still hidden. Reaper walked to the door, glanced back once at Marcus, and then turned the lock. The door swung open. Two men in plain suits stood in the doorway. One was tall, broad, hair shaved close, jaw set. The other was thinner, eyes darting, a badge clipped to his belt like an afterthought. Between them stood Detective Halpern. He was older than Marcus remembered, but the eyes were the same, flat, assessing, cold. The kind that saw people as risks or assets, not human beings. Reaper, Halpern said, as if they were meeting at a bar instead of a child's hospital room. Didn't expect to see you playing babysitter. Reaper's face was impassive. Didn't expect to see you chasing kids instead of real criminals. Halpern's smile didn't reach his eyes. We go where the cases take us. His gaze slid to Marcus, lingering on the bandages, the bruises, the smallness of him against the white sheets. Mr. Green, Halpern said, we've been looking for you. Marcus's fingers tightened around the hidden phone under his thigh. You're not taking him, Reaper said calmly. Halpern turned back to him. You don't have the authority to make that call. He's a minor with no legal guardian. That makes him the state's responsibility. Funny, Reaper said. When he was freezing in alleys and dodging predators, the state didn't seem all that interested. Halpern's jaw flexed. Things are different now. He's a material witness in an ongoing investigation. Keeping him here is interfering with police business. Police? Gina snorted from the corner. Is that what we're calling you these days? One of the suited men shifted, hand drifting toward his holster. Reaper lifted a hand slightly. Easy, he said. Guns in a pediatric ward look bad on the evening news. Halpern stepped fully into the room, the other two following. The door swung shut behind them with a soft click. The tiny device near the monitor blinked a little faster. Halpern planted his hands on the foot of the bed, leaning in just enough to loom. Marcus, he said, voice taking on a practiced gentleness. You remember me? Marcus forced himself to meet his eyes. You were at my old apartment, he whispered. When my mom... He couldn't finish. Halpern nodded slowly, face arranged into an approximation of sympathy. I was there when the paramedics tried to save her, he said. You've had a rough year. The streets aren't safe for kids. That's why we need to move you somewhere secure. Somewhere we can keep an eye on you. Marcus swallowed. Like you kept an eye on her? The veneer cracked for a split second. Reaper's gaze sharpened. Halpern straightened. We're done here, he said briskly. Off the rails enough already. We have transport downstairs. Nurse station signed off. He reached for the bed rail. Reaper stepped between them and the head of the bed. You got paperwork, he asked. Court order? Something that says you can move him without a hearing? Halpern's eyes went flat. Don't push this, Reaper. Reaper tilted his head. So that's a no. Halpern's patience thinned visibly. Move, he snapped. Reaper didn't. Here's how this is going to go, Reaper said quietly. You step back out into that hallway. You bring a judge's order with a signature on it. Then maybe we have a conversation. Halpern smiled again, but this time, the charm was gone. You think I'm bluffing? He asked. You think your little biker club scares me? Reaper's voice dropped to something almost too soft to hear. I think you've gotten away with bending the rules so long you don't remember what they are, he said. And I think you walked into the wrong room to try it again. Halpern's eyes flicked briefly to the device by the monitor. Then his face changed, because in that tiny blinking light, he saw something he hadn't counted on. Evidence that didn't belong to him. For the first time since stepping into the room, Detective Halpern looked unsure. Detective Halpern's gaze stayed glued to the blinking device. For a man who'd built a career on controlling scenes, he suddenly looked like he'd walked into one he didn't own. His jaw clenched. The two officers flanking him shifted uneasily, casting quick glances at the camera tucked beside the monitor, then at Reaper's expressionless face. "You recorded this?" Halpern asked quietly. Reaper didn't bother to look at the device. "You walked into a hospital room to move a beaten 12-year-old with no court order, no guardian, and no lawyer," he said. "You tell me, should it be recorded?" Halpern's fingers curled against the bed rail. "Turn it off," he said. "Can't," Reaper replied. "Signal's already gone off-site. Cloud, multiple backups. You could smash that thing, and you'd still have a bigger problem than me." Halpern's eyes hardened. "You think anyone will believe a biker over a decorated detective?" Reaper's smile was humorless. "I think they'll believe the kids you failed," he said, "and the families you threatened, and the councilman who's very motivated to throw someone else under the bus to save his career." Marcus watched, heart pounding against the bandages. For the first time, the man who'd haunted his nightmares didn't look invincible. He looked cornered. Halpern straightened his blazer, mask snapping back into place. "We're done," he said tightly. "For now. But this isn't over." He turned toward the door. "Actually," Reaper said, "it is." Halpern stopped. Reaper pulled out his phone, thumb tapping quickly. "You remember the assistant DA on 3rd?" he asked. "The one you leaned on to bury Ashcroft?" Turns out losing his re-election bid made him chatty. Halpern went still. "In about 30 seconds, Reaper continued, "your boss is going to get a packet with timestamps from this room, statements from other kids you relocated, and the message you sent a bully to flush Marcus out." Halpern's bravado cracked. "You can't prove that number was mine." Reaper nodded toward the hallway. "Axe traced it back to a private line leased in your wife's maiden name. Sloppy, for a guy who prides himself on details." Halpern's hand twitched toward his holster, then dropped. There were too many witnesses. Too much tech he didn't control. "And here's the fun part," Reaper added. "I didn't send that packet to just one person." He took a step closer. "I sent it to 6, he said softly, "including internal affairs, a reporter that hates your guts, and a judge you screwed on a promotion 3 years ago. So go ahead. Walk out that door. But don't pretend you're walking back into the same life." For every Marcus who survives long enough to be heard, there are kids who never get that chance. Like and subscribe so stories like this don't die in the dark with them. Halpern's face went blank, the look of a man realizing that every escape route led off a cliff. "You think you're some kind of hero?" he muttered. Reaper's gaze didn't waver. "No," he said. "Heroes don't let it get this bad before they show up." Silence pressed in. Then Halpern did something Marcus didn't expect. He stepped back from the bed. "Get out of my way," he told his own men. The taller officer looked confused. "Detective, that's an order," Halpern snapped. "We're leaving." He turned without another word and walked out, shoulders rigid, steps too controlled. His men followed, the door swinging shut behind them with a soft thud that felt more like a slammed cell door in Marcus's chest than theirs. The room exhaled as one. Gina sagged back against the wall. "You just painted a target on your own back," she said. Reaper pocketed his phone. He wasn't going to stop just because Marcus disappeared quietly, he said. This way, he actually has to answer to someone for once. He moved back to the bed, and the hard edges in his face softened when he looked at Marcus. "They won't try that again," he said. "Not like that. Too many eyes on them now." Marcus swallowed. "So that's it. They just go away." Reaper shook his head. "No. There's going to be hearings. Investigations. People will drag their feet. Some will try to bury this, too. But they can't erase you anymore. You're not a nameless kid in a forgotten file." He tapped the side of the bed gently. "You're a witness," he said. "And you've got people who know your face now." People. Plural. That word sat heavy and strange in Marcus's chest. "So what happens to me?" he asked quietly. "When this all dies down." Gina pushed off the wall. "That's the thing, kid," she said. "You get a say this time." Reaper cleared his throat, suddenly almost awkward. "I talked to a lawyer who owes me more than one favor," he said. "We're filing to keep you under temporary guardianship while this is going on." It keeps you out of state facilities, keeps you under a roof we trust. Marcus frowned. Guardianship with who? Reaper held his gaze. With us, he said. With me. With Lily. With the club. Marcus's first instinct was to laugh. The image of himself in a neat living room, doing homework at some nice table with a normal family, had faded so long ago it felt like a joke. Swap the living room for a clubhouse filled with patched vests and bikes, and it sounded even more insane. You want me? Living with bikers? He asked skeptically. Gina snorted. That's rich, coming from a kid who's been sleeping in condemned buildings. Reaper's mouth quirked. You'll have a bed, he said. Hot meals. People watching your back. And you won't have to flinch every time a car slows down on your block. Marcus stared at him. Why, he blurted. You barely knew my mom. You don't know me. Why risk all this? Reaper's answer was quiet. Because walking away from your mom is the biggest regret of my life, he said. Because Lily came home shaking, and the person who stepped in for her had nobody. Because I've spent years talking about brotherhood and family, and I'm done letting those just be words we put on patches. He leaned closer. And because you deserve better than a world that only notices you when you're broken, he said. So if you'll have it, you've got a place with us. Marcus looked away, blinking rapidly. The room blurred at the edges. Nobody had ever said, you deserve better, like they meant it. The door cracked open again, but this time, the head that peeked in was small and round, with messy brown hair and worried eyes. Dad, Lily whispered. Gina opened the door wider and let her slip through. Lily rushed to the bedside, skidding to a stop when she saw Marcus fully awake. You're up, she breathed, relief flooding her face. I thought, her voice broke. I thought you were going to die. He tried for a smile. Not yet, he said. You okay? She nodded, then punched his arm very gently. Don't do that again, she sniffed. You scared me. He winced. You punch harder than you look. Reaper watched them, something unspoken moving behind his eyes. Lily, he said softly, tell him what you told me in the hallway. She looked at her dad, then back at Marcus, suddenly shy. Her fingers twisted the hem of her hoodie. I told him, she swallowed. I told him I don't think it's fair that you saved me and then had nowhere to go. I told him I think, if you want, you should come live with us. Marcus blinked. With you? She nodded vigorously. We have a spare room, she said. It's kind of full of boxes right now, but we can move them. And Gina says she'll teach you how to cook something other than ramen. And the guys said they'd help you with school stuff. And, she sucked in a breath. And I won't walk through alleys alone anymore, she added. So you don't have to keep almost dying for me. A shaky laugh escaped him, half sob, half chuckle. What if? He hesitated, fear creeping in. What if I mess it up? What if they change their minds? Reaper answered before Lily could. Families fight, he said. They screw up. They disappoint each other sometimes. But they don't vanish when things get hard. They show up again the next day. He let the words hang there. That's what we're offering, he finished. No guarantees that it'll be perfect. Just a promise that you won't be alone in it. If you've ever gone to sleep wondering who would notice if you vanished, you know exactly what this moment means. Like and subscribe so stories about second chances reach the people who need them most. Marcus's throat felt too tight to speak. He thought about the shelters, the cold nights, the way staff rotated out, faces blurring together, the constant reminder that he was temporary everywhere he went. Then he thought about Lily's hand clutching his in the alley, Reaper standing between him and a detective with dead eyes, Gina locking the door with steady hands and absolutely no fear. Maybe this wouldn't last forever. Maybe it would be messy and loud and complicated. But for the first time in months, temporary wasn't the only word he could see. He took a slow breath, testing his ribs. It hurt, but in a way that reminded him he was still here. Okay, he whispered. I'll try. Lily's face lit up. Really, really, he said. But only if you promise something too. She tilted her head. What? He managed a crooked smile. Next time a bully shows up, we run together. Deal? I'm not making a habit out of the hospital food. She laughed, a wet little sound, and nodded. Deal. Gina wiped at her eye like something had gotten in it. Well, she muttered. Guess I'm buying another toothbrush. Reaper exhaled, some of the weight slipping from his shoulders. We'll handle the paperwork, he said. The hearings, the lawyers. You focus on healing. After that, we figure it out one day at a time. No more disappearing. Not on my watch. Marcus leaned back against the pillows, exhausted but lighter somehow, like a knot inside him had finally started to loosen. Outside the window, the afternoon light over Detroit looked different than it had the day before. The same cracked streets, the same sirens in the distance. But somewhere out there, a detective was facing questions he'd dodged for years. A councilman was staring at a future full of microphones instead of closed doors. And a 7-year-old girl no longer had to walk through alleys alone. Inside room 3, a boy who'd been a ghost for 8 months had a name on a chart, a hand to hold, and a home waiting that wasn't just another cot among strangers. He wasn't just the homeless kid who took a beating anymore. He was Marcus. He was alive. And for the first time in a long time, he wasn't facing what came next by himself.